Hello, I'm Beth Joey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, welcome. This is a channel where I paint my face, turn my camera on and talk about some books. It's the end of June, which means we are going into the end of US Pride Month, which is June, and going into the UK calendar of Pride activities, which is more focused to July. So I thought what better time than to do a bit of a vlog where I go through all the books that I was planning to read as part of Pride Month, and I read them as part of this vlog. So to keep this intro very short, because I gotta head off to work in a quick second, the first book that I'm going to be reading is In Memoriam by Winn. This is a beautiful romance between these two men who meet in school and very quickly fall in love with each other. But of course it's set in 1914, so neither of these boys can act on their desires, and frankly neither of these boys knows that the other one is in love with them. As it's set in 1914, obviously we've got the outbreak of the First World War on the doorstep, and Gaunt, as a result of anti-German prejudice that his mother is facing, he decides to sign up for the war effort and go off to fight, because at this point it's considered a very glorious thing to fight for your country, because these young boys do not know the realities of war yet. But once he gets to the front lines and he learns the realities of war, he does everything he can to stop the man he loves, Elwood, from joining him on the front lines. But of course, because of that love that Elwood feels for Gaunt, he joins him out on the battlefield, and the story is full of fleeting moments where the boys find solace in each other and the heartbreak of losing their friends and people who become family on the battlefield. I went and saw Winn live at Waterstones Piccadilly when she was in conversation with Tom Crew, and I was absolutely hooked on the way that she sold this story, so I cannot wait to pick it up, and I will give you my thoughts when I'm a little bit of the way in. But for right now, I gotta rush off to work because it is time to go. Though admittedly, I'm not enjoying the fact that it's a work day today because it is pouring with rain and it's storming out there, and I have a genuine fear of storms. Maybe it's because I grew up in Australia, and in Australia, or at least in Queensland, storm and thunder tends to mean a tree's gonna fall through your house, so it terrifies me. But gotta brave the storm, gotta go out, gotta get to work. So I'm gonna go do that, and I will talk to you in a bit when I have an update on In Memoriam. Apologies for the really horrible lighting. It's really light outside still, but there's no light coming in from the other way that I'm not facing, so we're just gonna go with this, have my face fade in and out of view constantly. I'm obviously home from work now. I was supposed to be playing netball after work, but annoyingly I traveled like an hour to get there, and the umpires for the netball game never actually showed up. So the netball game never went ahead. So I came straight home basically because we were gonna play a friendly, but we couldn't find any ball or anything like that. So came straight home and picked up myself some chips and nuggets for dinner from just the local kebab shop that's down the road. They sell chips and nuggets and everything as well. And I just thought before I eat that, while I let that sort of cool down, because it is piping hot, fresh out of the fryer thing, I thought I would update you on In Memoriam by Winn. I am now, how many pages? 119 pages into this book, and it's a lot. It is so like depressing, but in a really good way, and then also uplifting, and it has these moments of hope which are really adorable. I don't really know how to describe this book. Obviously you're primarily following Gaunt and Elwood, who are these two boys who have gone to school together, and Gaunt signs up for the British Army in the First World War because his mother basically begs him to, because she's been dealing with a lot of anti-German hate, because that's where Gaunt's family is from. Obviously they live in England now, so he signs up for the war in order to sort of beat down some of that hatred, because then she can note that her son is fighting for the British Army, and he obviously goes in there with the belief that everything is going to be glorious and he's going to be fighting for his country, and he very quickly learns that it's not like that. He makes and loses friends, he experiences horrors that you would not believe, and it seems that the only solace he finds is in writing these letters to his old friend Elwood, who is still back at school and who is describing to him all the little things, all the like little petty things that happen in school, all the funny things that happen in school. And I think it's a real relief for Gaunt in those moments when he's sort of connecting with this other world that he's lost touch with because he's faced with these horrors every single day, until Elwood decides to sign up for the war effort as well. And Gaunt basically goes stone cold silence on him when Elwood tells him, because he doesn't want Elwood to have to face everything that he's faced. He wants to protect him. He tells him not to do it, but then Elwood signs up anyway, and he meets him in the trenches. And it's this moment of relief almost, because they're so excited to see each other again, and you can tell that they're so excited to see each other again, but fear as well for Gaunt, because he doesn't want this for Elwood. There is an incredible amount of repression in this story, both internally and externally. You know, you have these boys where they have a moment where they're at risk of being found out that their letters back and forth to each other are a little less friendly and a little more amorous. And so they're getting repressed from sort of external forces who are saying to them, you can't be writing to each other like this, like you will get court-martialed, you will get in so much trouble. But then also the internal repression as well when they're seeing each other again, because they genuinely believe that how they feel for each other is wrong, and it's, you know, against the law, it's against God and everything. And reading as they struggle through that is so sad, but then those moments where they just let themselves be happy, let themselves experience that love for each other are just so beautiful. And I think they're finally at this moment where they're letting themselves take solace in each other's company, definitely in secrecy, because neither one of them wants to be court-martialed for their feelings for each other and for acting on those feelings, because that's obviously something that could happen to them if it were found out that these men were in love with each other. But yeah, this book is just heartbreaking already. And you know, those moments where you read the death notices from the school newspaper and they run through the list of men that have passed away. There's this moment in the audiobook where all the voices and all the names overlap over the top of each other as they're reading through them. And it just really exemplifies that feeling of these people whose names are just lost in this war, and their bodies are lost, and their histories and their families are lost in this war, and how hopeless it all is. It was a really poignant moment, I think, in the audiobook. So I definitely recommend listening to that while reading this, because you just don't get that same experience just reading the names on paper as you do hearing them overlapping over each other in the audiobook. But yeah, I'm loving this book so far. I'm probably not going to update you again until I've finished it, so you'll have to wait and see for that on my final review. But I would be very surprised if it's much less than like 4.5 stars, if not 5 stars. So yeah, I'm gonna go eat my dinner now and watch some TV while I do that, and then pick up this book again and hopefully get it finished by first thing tomorrow morning and have an update for you by then, so I can pick up whatever my next book will be. Hopefully something a little bit more lighthearted, because this and the book that I read just before it, which was The Testaments by Margaret Atwood, I finished that off in a different vlog, which I'll link down below for you to watch if you're interested. Both of these books, one after the other, are probably gonna break me. So I'm gonna need to read something easy breezy and light and cozy and happy next, because these are gonna kill me if I keep reading these sorts of heart-wrenching, really moving stories. But anyway, that's the plan for tonight. I'm gonna go eat, and I will see you in a little bit with more thoughts on In Memoriam by Alice Winn.
Killed in action: Aldworth, Captain and Adjutant Edmund Hamo, Royal Irish Rifles. Early killed in Lieutenant George, Northumberland Fusiliers. Blumenfeld killed in Second Lieutenant Leslie Frederick Chamberlain. Cathcart, Second Lieutenant Lancelot Owen. Killed in Davidson, East Lancashire Regiment. Temporary killed in action. James Ainsley. Ellis, London Regiment. Second Lieutenant Percival. Elmhurst, Lieutenant Francis. Killed in Brigade Machine Gun Company. Farlow, killed in Lieutenant Ronald, RFC. Holmes, Second Lieutenant Guy Jeffrey, KOSB. Landfield, Second Lieutenant Maurice Morton, Royal Kennett Fusiliers. Second Lieutenant Herbert Wallace on July 2nd. Royal Scots Fusiliers. Robinson, Captain Cecil Lionel Charles. York and Blank Schooner.
That, oh god. That was really depressing way to end that book. That was a lot. That was really a lot. So I'm gonna go cry, and then I'll come back and tell you my review. Okay, I'm not crying anymore. I wouldn't say that I'm fully functioning yet, but I'm not crying anymore. So let's talk about, and right as I say that, I can feel my eyes tearing up, but let's talk about In Memoriam by Alice Winn, which I 100% gave 5 stars. I mean, how could I not? Anyone who reads this book and doesn't feel everything, like all the emotions, who are you? I would love to not be emotionally distraught right now, but also how do you not feel everything after reading this book? Because this just hit me so hard. But anyway, let's go into my review of the book. Let's talk about it and yeah, elucidate some thoughts about why this was such an incredible story. So let's be honest, I knew from the moment that I picked up In Memoriam that I was going to get attached to these characters, and I was right. I fell head over heels with Henry Gaunt and with Elwood, Sydney Elwood. I think introducing them in that school setting was such an effective method for really making the reader understand where these boys started and how they turned into the men they turned into, and just how disparate those two people were, like the boys that they were at the beginning of the book and the men that they were at the end after experiencing everything. It was just such a enormous change in these characters that I think it was so perfect that it started that way, because it made you feel even more connected to these characters, seeing them in their immaturity, seeing them having fun with their friends, and then seeing them lose those friends. Gaunt definitely began the story as very anti-war, and he only signed up because he felt like he had to, due to sort of familial obligation, and he definitely finished the book very much feeling the same, but he wasn't a conscientious objector. He was still loyal to his men. From the war, I think what he took was that it was wasteful, but he was set on being loyal to the men that he was fighting alongside, and he would fight for them rather than necessarily for the country that he was fighting for. Whereas Elwood kind of enters the war with this glorified idea of what it's going to be like, how he's going to reconnect with Gaunt, how it's going to be glory and battles, and he's going to win medals, and he comes into the war with this very naive sense of how it's all going to turn out, and then watching him change as everything he experienced comes to pass, everything he lost happens, every friend he lost is just heartbreaking, because you feel for it and you feel for him, and you see him turn from this idealistic young man into someone who is just really blank and really struggles with emotions, gets really angry in dealing with his grief, and it's heartbreaking watching that happen. Despite the very little time that you spend with a lot of the side characters, I feel like because of the magnitude of war and because of the magnitude of the connections that these men would have made in such a short space of time, you make those connections as well, to the point where when you lose them, you feel it as well. And especially by the end, I mean, that last episode, I guess, of the school newsletter, that last section just broke my heart, because it made everything, all the stuff that I just read, all the experiences that these men had, feel so hopeless and so wasteful. And then it was so clearly juxtaposed with this moment of like hope and this moment of love between you know, in the previous chapter. So it hit even harder, which is just unbelievable. But yeah, it just made the whole thing feel so wasteful, and I think it's a really poignant message to leave your reader with at the end of the story. I mean, this book was, as you can probably tell, so incredibly atmospheric. I felt everything. I feel like atmospheric isn't even a good enough word, or immersive isn't even a good enough word to explain how involved I got in this story, from the battles, from going over the not the wall, but over the trench and out into no man's land, facing the horror of their first victim or their first fallen comrade, experiencing that blankness that the soldiers had to sort of force themselves into in order to survive mentally as well as physically. I was honestly just swept away by all of it, and I am amazed by how Alice Winn was able to write the magnitude and the enormity of this war, whilst also retaining those small, silent moments with the characters where they would just be with each other, and the small moments of happiness and joy amidst all the carnage and war. It really made these characters feel real, because you could really place them in this larger context, but also just spend time with them experiencing what they were experiencing. I mean, you could tell that the story was well researched. I was amazed by the author's note at the end, which explained how much research and inspiration she took from other sources. You know, she talks about how certain moments in the story were inspired by real stories from the war. She talks about how the honor roll of all the fallen soldiers are actually real names, or a lot of them are real names from the newsletters that she sort of based this story around, the newsletters that that she read from Oxford. And this whole story just felt honest as well, because not only did it look into the lives of these boys before war and look into their time spent in the war and everything they went through, but it also looked at after the war and the recovery that they went through, and how, you know, some of them had such severe post-traumatic stress, and then the level of grief that they experience and the stages of that, and then the physical trauma as well as the mental trauma and how they sort of intermingled. I think it just felt so honest because it went into detail on all of that, and you got to really experience it from the perspectives of the characters that we're following, and you got to experience moments from, you know, characters on the opposing side. There were brief POVs or brief setting, I guess, that were from German soldiers' point of view. I mean, everything that was covered in this book just felt so important and so poignant. And this story isn't one to be enjoyed, it's one to be awed by, inspired by, and it's one where you fall in love. You can't help but fall in love with the characters and everything that they go through. And that's just the case of what happened for me. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It's probably right up there with my best book so far of this year. I would be very surprised if anything could beat this out. This was incredible. So now I have to figure out what I'm going to be reading next, because I do not want to read anything that's going to break my heart as much as this one did. So I think that kind of cancels out The New Life by Tom Crew. I feel like that's going to be equally heartbreaking. So I'm going to go find my next read, and then I will talk to you in a bit about what that will be and what the read is about. Okay, so next up, I'm picking up The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, which is a beast of a book, but I hope will be a little bit lighter. It's fantasy. It's apparently a sapphic romance, which all about that, but as for what it's about, I'm not really sure, so let's read the blurb together. It says, one is a vengeful princess seeking to depose her brother from his throne. The other is a priestess searching for her family. Together they will change the fate of an empire. Imprisoned by her dictator brother, Malini spends her days in isolation in the Harana, an ancient temple that was once the source of powerful magic, but is now little more than a decaying ruin. Priya is a maidservant, one of several who make the treacherous journey to the top of the Harana every night to attend Malini's chambers. She is happy to be an anonymous drudge, as long as it keeps anyone from guessing the dangerous secret she hides. But when Malini accidentally bears witness to Priya's true nature, their destinies become irrevocably entangled. That sounds enthralling. This book is, I think, the Illumicrate or Fairy Loot special edition of this book. I want to say Illumicrate. I think I got it in Yalk last year, and it doesn't really say on here whether it's Illumicrate or Fairy Loot, but I'm pretty sure it's Illumicrate. So this is going to be the next book I'm reading. Hopefully it doesn't destroy me as much as the previous one did, but no promises. I guess we'll see when I update you in my next clip. As for right now though, Ben is on his way home. We're gonna make dinner and hopefully watch something nice and easy breezy as we eat dinner tonight. Just a nice cold salad because it is boiling hot in London at the moment, and I feel like such a pathetic Australian saying that, but it's like, it's really warm and it's humid and it's muggy and just the air feels so heavy. But hey, it's summer and we love summer. Tomorrow I am back in the office and we've got our office away day. So a big day of like strategy talks and things from about midday onwards, and then we all go out to the pub afterwards and enjoy free drinks and summer sunshine, and yeah, it should be a fun time. So that's the plan for tomorrow, and then Friday obviously working from home as I would usually. Sorry, the sun has just like appeared here, so let's block that out. Friday is working from home, and yeah, I'm gonna end this clip now because the sun is gonna blind everyone and nobody wants that. So yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna get to this book, I'm gonna make dinner with Ben, and then I will update you in a little bit when I have some thoughts about this next book. Friday. I am on my lunch break and I just wanted to check in very quickly and to close out this vlog here because I am currently in the middle of reading The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and unfortunately I'm just not taking any of it in. I'm getting really confused. I'm finding my attention is just all over the place, and so I am struggling so much through this read because it really feels like the sort of thing where you have to pay attention. There's a lot of characters to keep track of. There's a lot of POVs that you're in. I think there's 3 so far that I've met, and I just am not in the mental space right now to be able to take that in. So I am softy and effing this book, but I will be coming back to it at a later point because I've got the audiobook on my phone. Like, I bought it off of Audible and everything, so because I was so keen to read this. But yeah, now it's just not the time. It's a great book so far, but it's just not the time. Plus I had a really bad day yesterday, and so I am in the space where I just need comfort reads. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna close out this vlog, and then maybe soon-ish you'll see my weekend reading vlog, which will be starting basically as soon as I finish this one, where I read all the comfort reads that I have just been craving ever since yesterday and the hell that was yesterday. I'm not gonna go into all of that. There was just a really shit situation where some person decided it would be really fun to make a joke out of humiliating me. So anyway, I really hope that you enjoyed this vlog. I'm so sorry that it's ending on a downer, but do let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I read in this vlog and what you thought of them, or just let me know what you're reading at the moment, loving it, hating it, all that kind of thing. Come and chat to me in the comments down below. I love talking to you guys. I do my best to reply to every single comment, and talk to you guys really does cheer me up. I really hope that you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please do let me know by liking, subscribing, and hitting that notification bell all down below. It's a super easy way to help my channel grow, and I will see you lovely people in my next video. Bye!